What's up, boys? So after my last couple videos being a bit on the pessimistic side, I wanted to shake things up with a bit of based optimism. One of the things I think Bungie has working for them is the ending of the Light and Dark saga. The beginning of something new presents infinite possibilities, freeing the writers from the chains of something machinated by someone else almost a decade ago. Something they know they have to finish, even though it may not be the story they themselves want to tell. I'm hopeful that this newfound freedom and lack of narrative direction will serve as a benefit to the narrative team. Thusly, I thought it high time to start looking into what a bright future we might have in store for us as players of Destiny 2. Before we begin, I'm not going to be covering my predictions for the final shape, and I'm going to shy away from touching on the seasons immediately following its release. I'd like to wait until the release of the next season, for perpetuity reasons, that is to say the season following Season of the Deep. While I'd stand to argue many of the latest seasons have not added any meaningful narrative weight to the final shape, autoerotic resurrection of Cade 6 aside, there still needs to be a bit more information before I can lock myself in on a reasonable hypothesis for what the final shape will actually be. I actually want to talk about what awaits us beyond the final shape. There's almost no information out on the subject right now, so it presents this perfect landscape to throw around some cool ideas for what we could experience out there beyond our solar system. So let's get into it. The difference between Destiny 1 and Destiny 2, narratively, is that D1 was all about pushing out beyond Earth, exploring what ruins were left behind by mankind, as well as other civilizations. There was a lot of mystery and wonder in what could be discovered out there. Destiny 2, on the other hand, has been more tailored toward the protection of Earth. We explored what the light and darkness actually are, and used our newfound power to defend the city, and bring more into our fold. In a way, it's been about our connection with others. Not just other humans, but the fallen of the House of Light, and the Cabal with Kaido's forces, even the darkness we thought to be our enemy. If you look at it as a whole, there's a lot of weight and meaning there, even if the execution was a little shoddy. With the completion of the Light and Dark saga, I think we'll see a return to form, focusing on what lies beyond what we know to be home. If you've heard the stories of The Last Word and Thorn, they give this Wild West vibe. There's no tower, there's no vanguard. Shin Malphur has to deal with his struggles on his own. One man, alone against malevolence and evil. A story told quite a few times, but it still hits just as hard, drawing you in towards its eventual conclusion. If you've never heard it, go check out this story on Bife's channel. Despite its age, it's a wonderful watch, even if you don't play Destiny. Another story comes to mind when thinking of a wild frontier: the tales of the old warlords. When the ghosts first started bringing guardians back from the grave, the world was inhospitable. Our enemies hid around every corner, even amongst humanity. There was no government anymore, people just did whatever they could to survive. After some time, those with power seized as much as they could take. And who had more power than the Guardians? The ability to come back from death as many times as necessary? Wondrous displays of the strength of the light? Who could stop them? They became known as warlords, running their own makeshift feudal states. Some becoming roaming bandit clans, others setting up their own strongholds. We had always believed that the Awoken of the Reef were the furthest surviving civilization. The Dead Orbit ships were never heard from again after they passed the asteroid belt. We even found the remains of one on Nessus, thinking it to have gotten the furthest among its fleet. But with the discoveries we made on Neomuna, we know this to be false. Civilization did find a foothold past the reef. How far could they have gotten? Picture this. You're a guardian with looser morals, just like those warlords way back when. You see the wolves of the Iron Banner and the guardians of the Vanguard coming to take you down. What do? Flee. Run as far and as fast as you can. From our exploits in Destiny 1, we know that the outer planets are not the most welcoming of places. Vex, Hive, Cabal, Fallen, all roaming about, trying to end all you've accomplished. So you keep running. The forces of the darkness, as we knew them at the time, were drawn to the Traveler. You follow its wake. The Traveler leaves the planets it touches in a state of vibrant life, much more hospitable to the human condition. The enemies aren't just going to turn around and head home, not without what they came there for. So you keep moving, until you find a suitable place to call home. A beautiful and lush garden, left behind by all the other civilizations in their eagerness to seize the Traveler for themselves. In your hundreds, if not thousands of years of travel, you've worked with your crew to set up a hierarchy. You wouldn't have made it here without one. As you begin to rebuild on your new home planet, that hierarchy becomes a government. Not a government based on elections, but a monarchy based on power. Think of the culture that would develop around such a society. Ghosts likely wouldn't reach the dead here, and very few would have the power to overthrow the Guardian overlords. Each of the remaining Guardians would be constantly vying for power, but not wanting to risk losing their final life. Political squabbles, dominance shifts, military coups, all this going on far outside where we've ever been able to see. Now we arrive, having defeated all the champions of the darkness, hardened by years of struggle, eager to see what we've earned for our troubles. Pathfinders, not expecting to stumble across any other humans, let alone a whole planet. A second Earth. Our values conflicting with some societies and aligning more with others. But we need a safe place to make a second home here. Supplies are very low, and dying of malnutrition is a painful way to go, even if the ghosts just bring us right back to life. We radio back to the Vanguard with our discovery, and get the all clear to go ahead and set up camp. We trade our knowledge of light and dark for safe harbor, so that we may continue pushing into the unknown. While this is all going on, Keitel will return home to retake Torbattle from the Hive Scourge. Once the war is won, all the Cabal are freed from their service to the Emperor's armies, a day they never thought they'd see. She'll have a people to rule, and political opponents to put down, and dead friends to lay to rest. Our allies in the House of Light may choose to travel along with the Cabal, trying to find a planet of their own to call home. Or, and I think this would be way cooler, have the Elixni stay with humanity, becoming one people, sharing cultures and traditions. Maybe they could work together to solve the Elixni reliance on ether, allowing them to breathe the same air, free of masks and suits. Even if the Traveler doesn't make it through the final shape, I feel like this could be a new golden age for the citizens of Earth. Hell, maybe the previous golden age wasn't caused by an influx of technology, but by a cessation of war and conflict. There's so much that can be done with these ideas. Pose some difficult questions to players using the various factions on the new Earth. Different characters in the Vanguard could have varied perspectives on who to support and how to handle these governments. Maybe there's a rebel group working to overthrow the unjust monarchy. Zavala, not wanting another war after we just grabbed hold of peace, tells the Vanguard to back the monarchy. Crow, wanting to do what's right, joins up with the rebels. Ikora, not being able to publicly defy Zavala, sends her hidden to assist with the rebellion. And which faction we pick determines which story we wind up playing. Hell, you could even throw in a third political rival. That way, when players go through on each character, they get a fresh experience every single time. Some people may stop there and say, well, that's not realistic. Bungie's not going to put that many resources into developing a story campaign. The ROI on that would be terrible. And I understand that thought completely. But look how damaging a bad story in Lightfall was to Bungie's reputation. Even if Bungie does an alright job with the final shape, they may be able to win some of the players that have checked out back with a story like this. Something a bit more engaging and fleshed out than what we're getting. It may have a lower ROI in the short term, but it pays dividends in player retention. For every time you lose a player, you have to work twice as hard to get them to come back. Why not just keep them around and save yourselves the trouble? And there'd be a cool opportunity to tell the whole story from the beginning, while improving the new player experience. Anyone who had the intention of joining Destiny 2 will likely do so after the final shape. Why not, instead of starting players in the beginning of the Light and Dark saga, have them start as one of those ruled by the warlords from long ago? Have them out on a scouting party with their companions when they get ambushed by the Fallen. They clear their way through the Fallen and realize they've stumbled upon a whole catch. They return back to the stronghold, and the warlord argues with their advisors about the correct path forward. They bring up the pressures of the wolves and the vanguard, discussing how a local warlord they do trade with was recently overthrown, dying his final death. Our warlord makes his decision. We're going to steal the catch and make our home elsewhere. Working together, they kill the Archon on board the ship, just like we do in the Cosmodrome intro of Destiny 1, and the following missions take place aboard the ship. Maybe Vex teleport on board, or they dock on Mars and run into Cabal forces. Along the way, showing how Guardians don't age, but people do. Maybe have a particular character be young in one stage of the intro story, then old in the next. Eventually they make it to their new home. Then, a time skip, and a cutscene showing how the community has developed over generations. This allows players new to the Destiny universe to get a grasp of Destiny's scale. Even better, new players will have a different take on the actions of the Vanguard within the city. They may be more likely to side with the Monarch, rather than the Rebellion. Hell, I'd even delete a character and start from scratch just to get this experience. So there you have it, my take on what Destiny should look like after the final shape. I will say that, as much hate and flack as Bungie gets, I think it comes from a place of love and hope. The whole community knows what Bungie is capable of, and what a magnificent stage they've set. They know where the game could be with just a little more heart and a little less corporate coldness. Personally, I'm looking forward to it. If you have some ideas you want to see post-final shape, throw them down in the comments. Everyone has their own picture to share, and I'd love to see it. I hope you fuckers have a good day, and I'll see you on the next one.